Welcome to Gdańsk. This is Poland's sixth largest city, a very famous port city in the north of the country. Famous for its resistance against communism, its World War II history and its refurbish of the old city. Today I'm going to explore it all. So join me and we'll explore it together. This is Westerplatte and this is where the Second World War started. To keep it in a historic perspective, the city of Gdańsk, or Gdańsk in Polish, was actually a German enclave inside of Poland before the Second World War, and the German wanted to unify it with Germany. The Poles, on the other hand, who had about 5% of the population, but the majority were German. The Poles, on the other hand, were allowed to have certain facilities here, like a post office, and on this spot they had a port where they can ship out goods. And this is where the Germans attacked the Polish in 1939, starting the Second World War. And the Poles, they actually fought off quite well. For 1 week they heroically fought off the Germans, but inevitably Germany won and Gdańsk had become a German city. Here is the museum of Westerplatte, a whole museum commemorating the battle and the soldiers that took place here in 1939. And they even have a beach here with very white sand. Poland is often actually famous for its beaches. And the most famous is Sopot beach, which I will visit later. You can see there are some industries here in the background, but endless of white sandy dunes here. But let's get back and check the museum site a little bit more. In case you don't want to visit the museum and pay for it, there are plenty of outdoor sites that you can check commemorating the battle, and that's what I'm going to do now. Just follow the tourists here and you come to the interesting part of this park. This museum park is about maybe 40 minutes from the city center. You take a bus, so it's not that close, but it's still quite convenient to come here. I believe this is a cemetery for the fallen soldiers. I couldn't find anything in English, but I do understand some words, and I think that's just it. This is actually a pretty big park, so be prepared to walk. I think the effort of walking and discovering is worth it if you have some time. And then you see remnants of the destroyed barracks from the battle that took place. Today a symbol of heroism for the Polish people. We get some pictures here of Germans hunting Polish clerks, railwaymen and postal employees and other civilians after they have taken over the city. And after the battle, Gdańsk became part of the German Federation. So we come to the end of this quite fascinating park, and at the end of the park you see this huge monument in the background. The highlight of the trip here. In a second I'm going to go up there and take a closer look to it. The monument is called the Monument of the Defenders of the Coast, and it commemorates the Polish soldier that defended the Westerplatte from the German invasion. It's actually quite impressive because it's situated on a hill, so I think you can see it from everywhere around this area. And on this side, of course, you see the port of Gdańsk and how important it still is to Poland. by then and by now, this is a pretty big port. Here it is, the monument at the top of this hill. And it's quite impressive actually, although it looks a little bit Soviet style. Poland is also famous for its amber, or particularly Gdańsk is famous for its amber. And as you can see, here is a shop that sells it. Amber is made from tree resin that has been fossilized and preserved for centuries, even longer than that. And it's known as the Nordic gold, or the Northern gold, because it's very prominent here in Poland and other Baltic nations. The name Bernstein is actually the German name for amber. So if you see Jewish people with this name, it's because many Jewish people used to work with amber in the past. All around Gdańsk you will see people selling amber in markets and in stalls, particularly on the main streets here. And most of that is actually fake amber. It's made of glass or some mixed materials or possibly plastic. So if you see, for instance, a perfect looking piece of amber with an insect inside, it's possible that it's actually not real. Ways to find out if the amber is real. The first one is that it's usually quite warm when you touch it. The second is, if you put it in salt water, it will float. And the third one is that the amber, if you warm it up, you will smell a nice taste or smell. Best way is to buy it in a museum or an authorized shop like the one I just visited. Then you be sure that you find the real deal. As you can see, the central part of Gdańsk is very popular. There's a lot of tourists here. It's actually a very picturesque city streets. Many old buildings, beautiful churches, and plenty of things to see and do. So just to get an impression of how the place looked like. So Gdańsk city center is actually very, very beautiful. You can just look at all those buildings. It's quite amazing actually. So, how did Gdańsk manage to preserve its beautiful historical center so well? The truth is that it actually didn't. After the Second World War, the entire city was destroyed and very few buildings were still standing. So Gdańsk had three options. The first one was the Minsk style, to just build everything in Soviet style, with modernist building and huge Sovietic blocks. The second option was to do it Warsaw style, and that was to meticulously build the houses just like they had looked like in the past, at least the city center. But they actually come up with a third solution that was far more interesting. That was building the houses like they could have been in the Hanseatic times. So they built a medieval city that had this Polish character, because the Polish people, quite deservedly, did not want Gdańsk to look German. Some buildings in Gdańsk were actually rebuilt meticulously, and one of them is the impressive St. Mary's Church, and that's actually where I'm heading next. So this is the inside of the St. Mary's Church, the largest church of Gdańsk. And beautiful ceiling, white ceiling. You get some sculptures of women. Look at this stained glass. That's art. That's so beautiful. And here is Mary in her own person. And this clock is probably the most impressive part of this church. It's massive and so well preserved. I found out that the astronomical clock is actually original and it was actually saved and restored. But there are plenty of details in this church that are more modern because they didn't survive the bombings the Second World War, unfortunately. But I gotta admit, I like this part also. I don't know if it's gold, but it looks like it. And the stained glass in the background also makes this church even more impressive. One of the things that I want to do here is to go up in the tower to look at the views. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I just ordered a ticket here. One cool detail here in the church is everybody has been throwing money. I don't know actually the reason for this, but there's plenty of money, all kinds of currencies. Walking in stairs is very good for your health. So let's do this. Let's complete the last part. So we reach the final stretch. So this is the top of the St. Mary Church tower. Let's check the views. So this is what you get. You can see most of the old city from this part and also some of the port and the wheel here. I think these views are quite amazing. Probably the best view from the entire city. Was it worth it coming up here? I definitely think so, but be prepared to walk quite a lot and very steep steps, so it's not for everybody, but the views were spectacular, the best in the city I think. So what's my impression so far of the city? My impression is that it's actually a very, very beautiful city. It's very picturesque. They've done a great job in refurbishing all these magnificent buildings that makes this city what it is. On the other side of this canal you can see the more modern buildings of Gdańsk. They're built in a way to resemble the older ones, but they're actually quite new development. Seems like you can take the ferry to Westerplatte from the harbor here. If I only had known. But it appears to be quite cool looking ship. Look at this. Wow. Pirate ship that goes all the way to Westerplatte instead of the buses that I took in the morning. This is probably the most touristy city in all of Poland. There's just so many tourists here. Especially if you come a bit later today, like I did. This is what you're waiting to see. We came to the most famous symbol of the city, the Gdańsk crane, or Żuraw in Polish, the largest medieval crane in Europe. Now we'll see if we can get it from a better side here. because I'm just standing under. Another symbol of the city's maritime history is the Neptune fountain that you find here on the main square. Impressive sculpture in the Mannerist style. Also a symbol of Gdańsk. Gdańsk feels like Poland's Disneyland, I think. There's so many people, so many things to do, so many attractions, and it's so touristy. Even have this very nice carousel for the kids. Very old style, but it's beautiful. And there are so many cafes also all around the city. Picturesque cafes close to the canals, serving traditional Polish food. So here is the famous Gdańsk Ferris wheel. Seems quite popular. And on this side you see all sorts of attractions that you can expect on a fairground. You can have all types of ice cream, donuts, waffles, I think. Looks delicious. You find all kinds of sweets, fries, donuts. But one thing I really like about this city is that it feels like something is going on. There's things being built, the economy is doing fine, and there's so many things to do here. So even if it's a little touristy, it's actually a very exciting city to visit. While walking here, you get the impression that things have changed a lot in Poland in recent years. Just look at this building in the background. It's deteriorating and it's vacant. But on the other side you see the huge Ferris wheel. So I think probably if you would have come here maybe 20 years ago or even 5 years ago, things will be looking very different. If you're a fan of brick buildings, you're probably going to like this city because there's plenty of brick buildings around the old city here. And since I think most of the city was destroyed in the Second World War, I think they actually built these houses after war to look like they were part of the medieval Poland or the Hansaic legacy that the city once had. But I gotta admit, I like it. It's very beautiful. And I think this is one of the most interesting things about Poland actually, is that it's one of a few countries in Europe where things are actually changing. While most of the tourists that comes to Italy, Germany, France, they're going there to see old things, relics of the past. But in Poland, people come here because they're building something new. And it also gives hope to the people that lives here that something is happening and changing for the better. They have a good economy, and it seems like the life of people here in general is actually quite good. But I'm going to try later on and talk to some more Polish people to find out what it's really about. Just look at this other side. In the background you see all the new development, and when you go across the street you see all the remnants of the old industrial past. I don't know if the camera does you any justice, but all these buildings are being demolished. They're all in disrepair. They all look like they were constructed during communist times. And now they're going to be demolished. Something new is going to come up here. So the next time you come to this area in Poland, in Gdańsk, it's going to look completely different. So everywhere you walk here, there is new development. Just around the hotel, building after building is being constructed. You can see on one side here, old industries being demolished and replaced by something new. And this place is certainly going to look very, very different if you come here just in a few years. Here is the European Center for Solidarity. I think it's a museum today. It's quite fascinating because it's recently built in this shipyard area, and on the other side here you see the monument for solidarity, the anti-communist monument. The whole museum is dedicated to the solidarity movement, a labor union that was started here in the shipyards by the famous Lech Wałęsa, and eventually it ended communism in Poland. Quite impressive building, I must say, with this water coming down. From the pavement. Here it is, the famous monument for the solidarity movement of Gdańsk, and it started here. And there's a quite interesting story about it. So, in the 1970s, the laborers here in the shipyards of Gdańsk demanded better conditions from the communist regime, and they were very repressive. So a lot of people lost their lives, and eventually Lech Wałęsa, the leader of a movement, started this. It was illegal, of course, the movement, but eventually in the early 1980s, the communist regime did something spectacular. They gave in and they let them become a union that they did. But they didn't see what was going to happen, because 1/4 of all laborers joined the movement and it became huge. So crackdown started and oppressions get stronger and stronger. And this would, of course, in short term led to a lot of repercussions, but in the long term it led to the fall of the communist regime of Poland. And Lech Wałęsa, the leader of this movement, he became the first democratically elected president of a free Poland. Different years here: 1956, 1970, 1980, 1981. Very important years for Poland's struggle to end communism and become a free nation again. The city of Gdańsk has been very important for Poland and its history, whether it was Second World War against the Nazis or later on against its communist regime. Look what they have achieved since then. I believe this is a monument of the fallen soldier. People have left some flowers here, and there is some information here in Polish that I unfortunately can't understand. Now I'm a little bit curious to see how the old building looks like, the ones that have been demolished. So I think we can go and take a little look at what is going to be gone forever very soon here. This is basically what's left of industrial Gdańsk, at least in the city center. All these old shipyard buildings are being razed one by one. You can just imagine how it was to walk around here. Maybe just 10 years ago, it was completely different. Just look at this thing, this industrial thing. And on the other side here you see a massive crane. And then you have this shipyard building, old railways lying here, decaying. Yeah, this is the Poland that we won't see again, because it's going to be gone forever. Just look at it. This is what's left of this old factory. waiting to be demolished. And some youth here are actually photographing the event or the decline of this shipyard. I guess you can get some pretty nice pictures here. Hello? What is this place? You can go up?
Yeah.
Really?
But not on the whole top, only to the circle platform.
Aha, you can climb there.
Yeah.
Isn't it dangerous?
No, it's safe.
Okay, so you can actually try it.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe you can go to this platform, the fifth here.
We have two platforms. The first one is like 15 meters.
Okay.
And the second one is the circle one, where's the cabin. It's 30 meters.
Okay, let's give it a try. I paid 20 zloty to go up here. Hopefully that's worth it. It's one of those very few chances, I think, to do something like this. That it feels a little bit crazy, but at the same time exciting. Look at the view of the harbor. That's quite crazy. Oh. Almost regret doing this. There is no safety here, nothing. Just crazy views. You can see the old harbor here also. The shipyards of Gdańsk. Now I have been climbing quite a few tall buildings in my days, but I think this is one of the scariest. You can just look down at the people here to see how tall it is actually. So this is the observation wheel. I think this is the highest you could get. Here's another view of my hotel in the background, the old shipyard, the docks. And here's a little shuttle where the operator was sitting. Not much left of it. Quite amazing actually. One of the scariest things I've done in a while. You dare doing this? Let me know. But you can't complain at the views at least. They're quite amazing from here. So that was the crane of the harbor here. One of the craziest things I've done, I think. But it was totally worth it for the thrill of it and the views I got. Makes travel so fun is all those unexpected things that happen. Not all those things that you check in, but there's things that you didn't expect that turn out to be quite spectacular, just like this crane.